Hey everyone, and welcome to tonight's webinar, Mind Mapping, Organizing Thoughts and Applying Ideas with Holly Luetkenhaus. I'd like to remind you that you're here to utilize the chat box, so if you're having any audio or visual issues, please use the audio tool wizard in the tools section, but we want this to be a very conversational experience for you, so feel free to type in the chat box. And without any further ado, let's welcome Holly.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining me. As Josh said, my name is Holly and I am an instruction librarian based on the Pullman campus. And tonight I'm going to talk to you about a process that you can go through to help you prepare for research. It's called mind mapping, and now you may also have heard of the term concept mapping. These are two processes that are essentially very similar. I use the two terms interchangeably, so you may hear me refer to both mind mapping or concept mapping, and I'm just talking about the same process. They can just be called different things sometimes. So what is mind mapping? It is a process by which you can visually organize information, and it's used in a variety of contexts. It's really helpful to learn how to master a topic or to break your information up into smaller parts, breaking a large topic down into smaller pieces. It can help you make connections between different ideas, and it's a way of incorporating new information into your existing knowledge. It's often used in teaching and studying for students to learn to master new content, but it can also be helpful, I believe, in researching as a way to help you learn to approach research from a different perspective and to critically examine a topic before you even get started with finding things like scholarly sources or other types of secondary sources of information. We often think of research as a very linear process where you come up with a topic and then you go do your research and you find some sources and you plug them into your paper and then boom, you're done, you write your reference page and you call it a day. But research is often a lot messier than that. You may find yourself discovering new ideas through your research that you hadn't considered before. And concept mapping or mind mapping is a way to help you organize what you're finding. So some other things that mind mapping can help you with research, in addition to organizing your ideas, is it can help you identify gaps in your knowledge so that you can see what areas maybe you don't know as much about as others. It's also great for helping you narrow broad topics into something smaller so that you have a really focused research area for a project. And additionally, it's helpful for identifying keywords or concepts that you can use to then find information about a topic. So the next thing we're going to talk about is actually how to go through this process of creating a mind map or a concept map. The first thing that you do is actually start with your main topic in the center of the page. And you can see the example here on the slide of body image. So that's a really broad topic, right? It's not something that is going to be really easy to research because there's a lot of information out there. So this is a really great example of a topic that works well with mind mapping. So if you're watching this video, I actually want you to go through the steps of the mapping with me. So if you have a piece of scrap paper and a pen nearby, go ahead and pull those out. And I'm going to have you start by writing a topic in the center of the page that you would be interested in researching. This could be a great time to play around with something that you're considering for a class assignment. So I'm going to give you just a minute to write down a topic that you might be interested in working with tonight, and then we will go through the next step of the mind mapping process. Okay, I'm going to give you just a few more seconds. So even if you can't think of a topic you might use for a class, just write something down that you would be interested in learning more about. Okay, so hopefully everybody had a chance to write down a topic that you would be interested in learning more about or doing some research on for class. So once you have your main topic in the center, you can start branching out into subtopics or other related ideas. So there's some examples there on the slide for you, some different aspects that are related to the topic of body image. There's a lot of different factors that can play into that broader topic. So what I did was branch them out, connecting them to the center topic, as you can see, so that I can see how they might be laid out, or the different factors that get played into this. So I'll give you a minute to go ahead and break your topic down into some related ideas or concepts. There's no limit to how many subtopics there are. There's certainly more that could be attached to the topic of body image here. These were just the first ones that came to mind. But for the purpose of working right now, try to think of at least 2 or 3 different aspects of your topic that you could look into further. And I'm going to give you another minute to do that, and then we'll look at the next step. Okay, I'm going to give you a few more seconds. Like I said, try to come up with at least 2 or 3 things that are different aspects that are related to your main topic. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at what your next step is going to be once you have your main topic in the center, and then you've branched out into some of your subtopics that are related to your main topic. Then what you're going to do is branch that out even further and start making connections between the different ideas that you're thinking of. So what you can see on the sample here is I'm breaking some of these different aspects down into smaller pieces. So if we look, for example, at the one in the bottom left-hand corner, the media impact, so there's different types of media that could have an impact on body image. So I started branching that out into a couple of different options. There's certainly more that could be connected there. These are just to give you an idea of how this process works. And then in addition, under sexuality and gender, you can see I put a couple of samples there of ways that that could get broken down. And then you can see that I also connected those smaller topics to each other. So you may start to see this now when you're mapping. Some of your subtopics may connect to more than one thing. They may connect to each other, and that's okay. The map can get messy as long as it makes sense to you. Part of the purpose of this mapping is to see those connections. So it's a way of visualizing that and being able to physically see it on a paper. So those connections can be really important and valuable for helping you figure out what area of this you might want to focus on, or what areas you might want to do more research into. And a note about some of these even smaller pieces, the ones that are outlined in the yellow on your screen, is that you could go so far as to include really specific examples of things. So for example, again, under media impact, maybe there's a commercial or a TV show that has something that really represents the way that that media may impact body image for you. Maybe you saw a TV show or commercial that resonated with you. So you could connect that really specific example to your subtopics as well, so that you remember it and you know that that's something that you might want to refer to if you're writing a paper or doing a project as something that's connected to this aspect of your topic. So once again, I'm going to give you a few minutes, or just really a minute, to maybe take only 1 or 2 of your subtopics and start branching those out into the smaller pieces or the specific or relevant examples of that, so you have something to work with through the next part. So take a minute and go through that process now. Okay, I'm going to give you about 30 more seconds, so try to come up with at least a few smaller branches off of your subtopics with some examples or different aspects of that for your map. Okay, so let's talk now about what you're going to do once you have a map like this started. So all of the steps that we've gone through so far are things that you can complete before you even start to do any research at all. This is a really good way to get a grasp on what you already know about a topic, so you know what gaps you need to fill in your research. You can see that from looking at my map that's on the slide in the bottom right-hand corner, I have more things coming off of media impact or mental illness than I do, for example, family dynamics over there on the other side of the slide. I don't have but one thing coming off of that, so that's clearly an area that I don't know as much about, how family dynamics can play into a person's body image. So that could be an area that I decide I'm going to research into now, because it's clearly one that I don't know as much about as the other parts of it. Or I may look at this and take the opposite approach and say, okay, I know a lot more or more different aspects of how media plays into body image than I do any other part. So maybe that's where I want to start with my research, since I know I have a good solid foundation in that. But that's part of the purpose of mapping, is to help you kind of gain an understanding of what you already know, so that you can figure out what you need to learn about a topic through research. Another great thing that this can be used for, as I mentioned earlier, is for identifying different keywords or search terms that you may want to use to help you find resources or information about a topic. So all of these terms that came up on my map are really great search terms. I could go type these into a library database or into Google and probably find some resources. And that's the next step that we're going to talk about, is how to start moving from a map into doing research. So you can see here on this next slide, I pulled off part of the map and just highlighted that small section that dealt with immediate impacts in sexuality and gender. And I started putting some possible search terms together. So just pulling some of the language directly from the map that I made, I started connecting and putting a few different words together. So I have like body image in women, or body image, gender, and advertising, if I was looking into maybe both aspects of body image, where I'm looking at media and gender together. So this is a great process to help you find those search terms and see what you're going to find out there and play around with some keywords. The next step, once you have your search terms, is to actually go do your research. So I actually did go to Google Scholar and put in body image, I think it was body image, men, and sexuality. And I came up with the article that you now see on the bottom of that slide. It's an article that dealt with men's relationships with media, real bodies, and sexuality. So what I did when I wanted to incorporate that into my map is I said, okay, I'm going to connect it to the ideas that I already have. It's dealing with media, and it's dealing with men. So you can see I have lines going from the title of that article to those specific parts of my map. Additionally, you see some now new ideas that are included on this concept map as well. So reading this article, it brought up some ideas that I hadn't thought about myself before. It brought up some different forms of media that I hadn't included on my map. And it talks about this traditional idea of masculinity, which is related to men, but maybe something a little bit different. So I also connected that back to my aspect of sexuality and gender. So I'm incorporating new things that I'm learning into my existing map, and I'm connecting my article or my new ideas to the ideas that I already have. So you can see how, again, this process might get a little messy, but I can see how my ideas fit within the things that I'm learning about a topic. And as I mentioned before, this is also a great process to help me narrow this down. So as I continue researching, if I keep finding more and more articles about one aspect of media or one aspect of gender and body image, I may narrow this down even further based on what I'm finding. But having a way to physically and visually map that is a way to keep yourself organized and remember where you've been and what you found and what you already know. So this is just a really great process, I find, for helping you get started with research. A lot of times we don't know where to start. We're like, okay, I know I have to do this research project, but I have no idea where to get started. I think I want to write about this topic, but I'm not sure. And mapping is a great way to help you organize your thoughts on something and then start to incorporate the things that you're finding as you learn more about a topic and as you learn how you want to narrow that down potentially into something smaller. So that's the process of mind mapping. It's great for a lot of different situations. Like I said, I like it for researching. It's helpful for studying and learning new ideas as well. So I hope that you find this process useful and that you'll be able to put it into practice and that it will help with your research. So that is all I have for you. If you have questions or about the mind mapping or about research, my contact information is now on the screen, so you are welcome to email me, or you can go online and talk to any of our reference librarians through our online research help page, which is also on this slide as well. So I hope that I will hear from you and that you have success with your research. And now I will turn it back over to Josh.
Thank you, Holly, for that insightful information. Again, if you guys have any questions regarding this process, please feel free to email Holly or email either myself or Harmony at global.connections@wcu.edu. Thanks again, you guys, and have a good night.